So today we are doing lesson 4 and still on business functions, and it is still in chapter 6 and it's in your textbook starting on page 65. So once again, get your textbook and open it up onto page 65. We are continuing with the business functions, and so we are now going to look at human capital or human resources or personnel functions. So in other words, that's dealing with the people working in the company. And obviously there are people that assist a business in dealing with people in the company, especially when there are a lot of employees. For example, Advotech has a lot of people that work for them. So obviously there's a human resources department as part of Advotech. So what is their job and what is this essentially? So obviously here we're dealing with the labor force, and you know the labor force is one of the factors of production. The other three are capital, natural resources, and entrepreneurships, and here we are dealing with the labor factor of it. Okay, now obviously businesses and workers need to be happy with the amount of money that people are being paid. So human resources are in charge of salaries and wages, and I need to be happy with what I'm earning so that I feel I have an acceptable standard of living. Okay, and human resources needs to ensure that their workers are happy and motivated, because if I'm happy and motivated, I'm going to work hard. And if I'm working hard, that means my productivity is going to be higher. If I'm not motivated and I don't want to be at work, I'm not going to be doing my job very well. And productivity in a business is very important. The better your people work, the more productive a business is, the more profit comes in. So your people that work for you and how motivated and happy they are is very important. Okay, so what essentially is the human resources department responsible for? Okay, the human resources department needs to determine how many workers of what skill need to be employed by the business. So how many cleaners should a business have, and what skill set do they need? Advotech, how many teachers need to be at Crawford at Pretoria, and what skill set do we need? Okay, so they decide on that. Okay, they decide what posts to make available. Okay, so we need a new whatever, science teacher, maths teacher, accounting teacher, whatever. Okay, they need to make that post available, and they need to look for people that could possibly fill that post. Okay, so they will identify candidates by means of a selection process. Then they will conduct the interviews and they will pick the candidates that they feel are suitable for the posts. They will also then make sure that, like when I was employed, that I needed to get the training to be as productive as possible. Okay. Once again, productivity is very important. Human resources then needs to make sure that I'm motivated and happy so that I am working as well as possible. And obviously, if a person is going the extra mile, doing extra work, human resources needs to say thank you, because when a person feels appreciated, they work harder. Okay. Also very important for businesses to try and keep their employees, okay, to retain their employees, because as soon as your employees are leaving all the time, that means you're constantly spending time looking for somebody new, training somebody new. When you've trained them, they leave and they go somewhere else. That's not what you want. You want to keep your people working for you. So you want to make sure that they are satisfied, that they have work satisfaction, that they're happy being there, that they feel happy, they feel like their jobs are safe, they feel like they need to stay there. Okay, so obviously those are largely what human resources are responsible for, but obviously it's also their job to be in touch with what all the labor laws are. They need to know what the labor regulations are, what the basic employment acts are, so that I can't say, well, this you didn't do, so I can take you to court. Okay, they need to know what the basic skills development acts are so that they abide by them. Okay, they need to know all of these things. Obviously, there's always risk management involved with these things, especially with people and people working. So you need to be very careful when you are employing somebody or recruiting somebody that they are going to fit into your business, that they are going to fit into the culture that you have in your business. It doesn't help if you employ somebody that's not going to fit into your business and your culture, because they're going to upset the people in your business very, very quickly. Okay, HR needs to have very good relationships with the trade unions, and they need to know what's going on so that the people can be happy and productive in the workplace. Okay, one of the biggest risks that the HR department has is the negotiations with salaries. Because as soon as the negotiations with salaries go wrong, the strike action can happen, and no business wants their employees to go on strike. Okay, they also need to be very aware and very sure that the people working their skills are constantly upgraded and that they have the proper skills to do their job to the best of the ability. They also need to make sure that the people in their businesses respect one another's differences and their cultural differences. You don't want any explosion in your business about different cultures or issues that have gone wrong. That creates lots of stress in a work environment. Okay, they need to make sure that their staff are trained and motivated, and obviously they need to keep abreast of what's changing in the labor laws. So if it affects people in the work, they need to make sure that they change things in the workplace to stay abreast of all the laws happening. So now we're going to talk about the next business function, which is the marketing function. This is always the function that you guys are very aware of. When you're watching your YouTube channels or whatever, there's always advertising happening on it. On social media, there's adverts happening. When you're driving along the highway, you'll see billboards. You hear them on the radio. You see them on the TV. You are very aware of advertising, and advertising is a very important way to make people aware of your business. Okay, so obviously I know that there's certain times on the radio or on the TV or whatever, you constantly hear this jingle playing over in your head. It's advertising, it's constant advertising. You know certain things belong to certain companies because they're constantly advertising, and that's very important. Okay, so when we have a look at marketing, the marketing policy consists of the 4 P's. Okay, and it's set here in the circle for you. The 4 P's consist of the product. What is your product? What is your price? Is your price the right price? Where are you going to distribute it from? Are you going to be distributing something from the Karoo when we need it up here in Gauteng? Okay, so obviously the place, your distribution and promotion. How are you going to promote this product? Then linked to the promotion, how are we promoting the product? Okay, how are we advertising? Are we advertising on radio, social media, on all forms, newspaper? How are we advertising? Are we having sales promotions? So buy one, get two free, or buy two, get one free. What are sales promotion? Who are the people selling our product? Do they like our product? Are they enthusiastic about it? And what is the public's perception of your product? That is all very important. Okay, now obviously, when we look at the market function, we need to have a look at, we need to do some research. If we're making video games, we need to look at our target market. Is the target market adults, children, small children, teenagers? Who is the video game designed for? Okay, so that is your target market. You have to have a look at it. Where and who are you going to be selling this product to? How are you going to tell them? How are you going to communicate with your teenagers that this is the product you're selling? How are they going to know about it? Okay, so all of that is very important for them to know. Okay, if you have a look in the picture up there, you'll see very clever advert of that on that truck. It looks like there's a whole bottle. I don't know what bottle it is, but it's some kind of drinks bottle in that truck. They're advertising. So wherever that truck's going, people are seeing that advert. It's incredibly clever. Okay, so one of the most important marketing aspects is a trademark. If you can think of a trademark, if you think of the Nike tick, that's huge. Okay, you know, whenever you see that tick, that is linked to Nike. They don't need to say anything. They just need to put that tick and you know. That is its trademark. That is its brand. Very important as a business to get the brand, the trademark across to people. So as soon as they see something, they know what it is. Okay, you'll see sometimes in programs that we all know what the Apple sign is, and they can't always put it in the program, so they make it a pear or whatever, but we know the underlying marketing behind it is Apple. Okay, obviously, what do we need to do? We need to communicate with our target market. We need to be able to say to our target market, wait, stop here. When we're advertising, when we're making an advert, we want to make them stop and think about our product. Okay, we don't want to tell lies. We don't want to say this is, going to change your life 1,000-fold, when it's just, this is going to be so much fun. Make it a realistic advert. Don't make it people going, oh, that's so unrealistic. Okay, so it needs to be realistic. It needs to be believable. It needs to be an impression that people think about. Okay, they're constantly thinking about that advert, whether it's a dumb tune going around their head, whether it's a slogan, whether it's a saying, whether it's something. It's some kind of impression that will help the people remember your trade name. And it's going to make people want to go and Google it, research it, look at it. Let me look at this product. Maybe I'm interested. Let me Google it. You want them to take a chance. You want them to look at it. Okay, you need to emphasize the advantage of your product potentially over somebody else's very subtly, but you need to convince them that your product is better. Okay, so you need to use words and campaigns. Don't just advertise on one format, advertise on various formats so that people see it everywhere. It bugs them. Okay, so marketing is huge, advertising is huge. If people don't know about your product, they can't buy your product. Okay, so now let's talk about the risk management. Okay, obviously, if we do not communicate with our target markets about our product, they don't even know it exists, which means nobody's going to buy it. Okay, it's also important that if a company says, okay, you have 200,000 Rand to sell this product, to market this product, you can't spend 1 million. You then need to stay in the budget of the 200,000 Rand. Okay, you need to keep an eye on your competitors. So if you have this game, you need to keep an eye on your other competitors. What games are they coming with? Is it better? Maybe I must come in just underneath their pricing so that people are more inclined to buy mine. But you need to keep an eye on your competitors and what's going around out there. Okay, very interesting, and I know you all have lots of experience with different adverts and seeing adverts. Business function, public relations function. Now, public relations function is what the public perceive your business to be. You'll sometimes see, if you've gone past a new restaurant or a garage, and you'll see under new management or new ownership, maybe because in the past it had a bad reputation for the food or the service or whatever being awful, and now they're telling you somebody else has got control of this. So hopefully all of those things, those bad impressions you had of this place, are now going to change. So obviously how the public sees a business is very, very important. Okay, so it's very important for a business to influence the public positively. That's why you will see companies get involved in sponsorship and community products, community networks, because they want to improve their public image. Okay, the better relationship you have with your interest groups, if you're selling video games, if you get involved in schools and helping out schools, kids get to know you, you get a good reputation. So obviously how the public perceives you is very important. It's very important, and also for your public relations, when you're having media conferences or when you're talking about things, for it to be honest, for people to know that you don't tell lies, that you're honest. You always see that with sports players. You have respect for certain players who, like for example, cricket players. The cricket player that goes out and knows he's out and walks off without waiting for the umpire and the third umpire. When he knows he's out, he's out. He walks out. That is huge respect. Honesty is huge, and that person has a very good public image. Okay, obviously very good, and your main goal as public relations officer is to have your business have a good image out there with your stakeholders and with the public. Okay, if something goes wrong, for example with Escort and the whole listeriosis process, they had to manage the bad publicity very well, very quickly. They had to do big steps, take big steps, make big announcements, say this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to move forward. Otherwise, that business would have gone down in flames. But they're still around, they're recovering, okay? Because their PR, their public relations officers dealt with the situation as best they could. Okay, you need to make positive out of bad situations. What is risk management involved in your public relations? Okay, obviously there is risk that something goes wrong in your business, like with Escort, and you obviously now have this very bad public image, and you need to work really hard towards improving the public's image of you. Okay, very difficult to keep that a positive thing, and you need to try and keep the business's image as positive as possible, and that is difficult. So, okay, the next business function being the administration function. Right, the administration function, the admin function, that is responsible for the collection of all the data in the business environment. So whenever information's coming in, it goes through the admin department. It needs to get processed and put into the correct places and filed correctly. Okay, so it's all the data processing, the information coming in and storing it in the correct places so that it is easily acceptable. So it's record keeping and collection of data, essentially. What is the risk management involved here? Okay, it is very important that we keep things in the correct files, so that if SARS, for example, had to come and ask for all the documentation, that all of the tax stuff is together and we can hand it over to SARS without any issues. And you need to keep certain data for a certain period of time. For example, the exams we need to keep for a certain period of time in case somebody wants to come back and look at their exam. We can have it accessible and available, but obviously we need to only keep it for a certain amount of years. I can't go back to my school and say, yes, can I see my grade 11 paper? They won't have a clue where it is. Okay, but obviously you need to make sure how long you need to keep certain documents for and make sure that you've stored them in the correct place. Also be very careful if you've got access to customers' details that you don't just give it out to somebody else, because that is illegal. You can't give people's details out just because you've got it. All right, so you've got to keep that in check. Okay, the last business function we are going to look at in this unit is general management. General management encompasses so much. Okay, so obviously when we're talking about general management, yeah, we have basic tasks that a general manager needs to do, and they need to be planning for the future of the business. They need to be organizing all the staff and the raw materials. They need to lead. Okay, so they need to make sure that they're leading the business from the front and that they are making sure that everybody's following them and making profit and everything. They need to control all the activities and make sure everything goes according to plan. When we're talking about additional tasks, we need to coordinate various business functions. So we need to coordinate the marketing with the production, so that the marketing and the production knows what they need to be doing for their target market. So we need to coordinate, put everything together. We need to make sure that there's communication between the employees and the customer, that they're talking to one another, that they know what's going on. We need to make sure that proper delegation is taking place, so that there isn't one person doing 100 people's jobs and the other people doing nothing. We need to delegate so that the jobs are done throughout the business. Obviously also the general management, if there's any disciplinary action, if there's somebody that's constantly late for work or they never at work on a Friday, they need to be the person that deals with that and do the disciplinary action. Often when it comes to management, they're the people making a decision. How are we going to deal with this quarantine? How are we going to go forward? They're the people having to make the difficult decisions. Okay, obviously when we're talking about this, obviously management and top management has certain leadership styles, and there are different leadership styles, and you need to know that, and you would have experienced all these leadership styles in your life in some way. So in other words, the first one is the autocratic. Your autocratic leader makes decisions on their own. So they make a decision and they don't really take input from somebody else. Now, you will know you've got parents, your mom acts one way and your dad acts another way, or your auntie or your granny or whoever, even teachers. We all have different ways of doing things, okay? Your autocratic person makes a decision, this is how it's done, and that's it. There is no discussion, there's no input from anybody else, and in some cases, that needs to happen. When there's a crisis, somebody needs to stand up and go, okay, this is how we're doing it, because it creates a certain kind of calm. When a person is unsure, they want everybody's opinions, and it takes a long time, it doesn't work out well. So then, autocratic is often a good way. If the ship is sinking and the captain says, right, everybody in age is getting on a lifeboat, that's what we want to happen. We don't want, what do you think we should do with the ship sinking, right? So sometimes autocratic is good, right? But an autocratic leader is a person that makes decisions without taking other people's opinions into account, okay? Democratic manager allows employees to add input. So they'll say, okay, this is what we are wanting to do. Does anybody have a different way, or does anybody think anything different? Do you think maybe we can do it a different way? What do you think? And then everybody has an input. That often works very well in a business because it makes people feel like they have input into their business and how the business is going forward. Okay, but like I said, that is a wonderful way to do things, but sometimes we need to make a decision, and that is it. Okay, when we talk about laissez-faire, that is a manager who goes, okay, so I need this document presented to me next week Friday, and they leave it in the hands of the worker. They never check up on them, they never do anything, and next week Friday they go, okay, let's see your thing. And they pretty much leave the workers to execute this at their own peril and at their own thing. And often workers then feel like, you know what, this person completely trusts me to do my job. Okay, and sometimes that's great. You can give them 2 weeks to do it, and that's a wonderful way to do things. A situational leader is a person that uses all of these things so sometimes when they know there's a task that it's fine, they can trust the workers with, they give them their 2 weeks. Sometimes we can have a discussion about how to do things, and sometimes the boss will go, no, this is what's being done, this is the situation. So a situational leader will use all of those different types of leadership styles when necessary. Okay, so what are the risks involved in the general management function? Okay, obviously because the top manager or the management is taking the direction and making all the missions and goals, they need to be sure that the people are happy with the direction in which they're going, and the people know in which direction they're going. So in other words, they need to make sure that the communication between top management and the workers is very, very good. Because if there's a lack of communication, people feel left out and they don't like that. Okay, top management needs to ensure that there's always teamwork, that the workers are working together, because if there isn't that teamwork and the employees aren't gelling and working together, then things fall apart. Okay, obviously also your general managers need to be very aware of what they're doing, and that they're abiding by the laws, and that what they're doing and how they're doing it ethically. Okay, so general management has a very, very big, important role to play in a business. So we are now done with chapter 6 and all of the business functions, the 8 business functions, the internal control of a business. And you need to please do the following activities. You need to do activity 5, number 1, activity 6, number 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Activity 7, number 1 and 3. Activity 8, number 1. And lastly, activity 9, number 1, 3, 4, and 5. And in the next lesson, I will make the memo available to all of those activities, and you can mark it before the final lesson of EMS, lesson number 5. Have a good day, grade 9s.